I'll be honest, I've never played a Bendy game before making this video. Ink Machine came out in 2017 and Dark Revival came out in 2022. I knew about it and even thought that the rubber hose animation was unique and reminiscent of those old Mickey Mouse cartoons from the 30s. And I knew there was an OG hardcore fanbase that's probably going to eviscerate my throat whenever I say something wrong, inaccurate, or even miss something in this video. But, for some reason, I just never got around to playing it myself. So after finally diving into the ink and dark puddles, I've gotta say, I should have played it a long time ago. Because what I thought was just another indie horror game with a creepy mascot, but with an old school Disney style to it, turned out to be something much more. A layered, unraveling mystery that only got deeper and more fascinating with each chapter. At first it seemed like a simple haunted animation studio, but the more I played, the more I realized there was a lot more to this story. In fact, despite the otherworldly aspects to it, there were very human themes throughout this experience. But ultimately, I found myself asking the questions how and why. What really happened to this animation studio? And what happened to everybody that worked here? But even as you get closer to the story, you end up having loads of questions, and I still have a lot of questions. But hopefully, some of you Bendy experts out there will be able to set me straight in the comments, letting me know some of the things that I missed or misinterpreted. Again, this is just me, a fresh pair of eyes who's new to the series. In fact, if you are a true and original fan of Bendy, I'm talking day one, let me know you're a real one in the comments. But if you're more like me and this slipped under your radar for some reason, let me know what you think about this story as I relay my own experience going through the Ink Machine and then the Dark Revival. I also spent a few hours playing Lone Wolf and Secrets of the Machine, but I'll get to that later. Remember, this is a story explained, not a lore video. There is a difference. With me, you're getting answers and a new player journey. So if you enjoy story deep dives or psychological analyses, hitting that like button encourages me to keep making more for you. But since you're still here, you're coming with me. Welcome to Henry receives a letter from an old associate, Joey Drew. After 30 years, he says he wants to show him something, so he invites Henry back to the animation studio that he used to work at. Joey's got a secret, but what? This corridor is narrow and bathed in a warm sepia glow, with slanted beams and warped wooden floorboards that make the whole hallway feel like it was drawn on aged paper. But it feels like it's closing in on us, converging on us. We're being watched. Vintage posters line both sides, advertising old cartoons like Little Devil Darling and The Dancing Demon, hallmarks of Joey Drew Studios. Black ink drips from the ceiling and pools in the corners, hinting at something corrupted lurking out of sight. The muted palette, the nostalgic posters, and the subtle decay create an atmosphere that is both inviting yet unsettling. A curiosity tinged with dread, and Henry takes his first step back into a place full of memories and unknown horrors. Nothing but the sounds of footsteps lightly tapping the wooden floorboards, the droning hum of old power still surging through the studio, and the projectors are still turning. As Henry forges forward, he sees the ink-written phrase his old partner and friend used to say, "Dreams come true." Pressing on, we see an overhead sign for an ink machine before jumping over a pipe that has burst, leaking black ink all over. Since this entire facility has ink spilling everywhere, I can assume that this place is leaking because it's been poorly piped up. But opening the wooden chamber, the room is lit in a golden haze, with chains hanging down into a dark pit at its center. Emerging from the shadows, the ink machine. He didn't fully understand it, yet he knew that this contraption was the heart of the studio. But was this the reason Joey summoned him here? Henry had to find a way to turn it on, and so he heads down the hall to search, but what he finds is rather grotesque. In a small chamber, Boris was strapped upright in a metal harness, his body stained with ink and lit by a harsh glow. His chest seemed to have been ripped open and a wrench was placed in his cavity. On the wall to his right was his poster. Boris the Wolf was a character created by Joey Drew Studios, and here he was executed. But what was even more unnerving were the candles flickering, turning this scene into a shrine. However, through a recording from an ex-employee, Wally Franks, we learn that Joey forced his workers to place personal items from their desks onto pedestals, what he called appeasing the gods. To everybody else, it looked like Joey was just losing his mind. And Wally would also question why the studio even needed an ink machine in the first place, since they didn't need that much ink. And the pipes were now snaking through every corner of the building.
But I tell you what, if one more of these pipes burst, I'm out of here.
But you see, with this, Henry had an idea to try to find those items, thinking it might turn on the ink machine. While exploring another section of the studio, he would find his old work desk.
Hey, here's my old desk. I wasted so much time in this chair. Looks like they knocked out a wall or two after I left. Guess it took a few people to replace me.
Henry wasn't just another animator who used to work at the studio. He was actually its other founding member. He and Joey both opened up the studio together, but it was Henry who created the characters who put Joey Drew Studios on the map, with some of those mascots being Bendy and Boris. But after collecting all the items, we flip the switch and the ink machine roars to life. The lights dim, shadows stretch across the walls, and that steady clanking of gears grows heavier with each passing second. The sound isn't just mechanical, it has a rhythm, pulsing louder and louder, like the thump of a giant's heart. It's like something is waking up, pumping living, organic ink through pipes that have become its veins, spreading throughout every corner of the studio. It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up. Running through the halls, desperately trying to escape the workshop as everything around him began to burst at the seam, Henry would find the door that he came through. Golden light pouring in, his safe haven just a few steps away, but that is when the floor beneath him collapses, sending him down into the next level of what would become his hell. But who made this hell? How and why? In a log from a Thomas Connor, he expresses disbelief that anybody would build a pipe system with such poor design and materials. The ink pressure was unstable, surging unpredictably, naturally causing the pipes to burst and forcing him to make constant repairs. But what unsettled him the most were the sounds that the pipes made. Groans and rattles that didn't seem mechanical at all, but almost entirely unearthly. And as venomous ink rains down dark puddles, I can only imagine the smell, and how it might gunk up in one's throat, pervading into their chest. Descending further, Henry finds another message written on the wall. The creator lies to us. Who is this creator, and who is the us? Picking up an axe and johnnying the door, we enter a room that looks less like part of a studio and more like the site of a ritual. In the center of the floor, a circle of candles burns around a demonic symbol, their glow casting uneasy shadows across the wooden walls, and I begin to think that Joey probably summoned something he wasn't supposed to. Against the back wall stand two coffins, while a crooked poster of the dancing demon hangs half-torn beside them, mocking with its cartoon smile. The air itself feels heavier, vibrating with a deep, rising rumble that makes the boards tremble underfoot, as if something beneath the floors was trying to strain and break through. Suddenly, images bombard Henry, overwhelming him, causing him to knock the F out. If we go back and slow down these images, we see an image of the ink machine, a wheelchair, and of the demon. Two of these seem self-explanatory, but it is the one of the wheelchair that pokes around the noodles of my brain, making me wonder, who does that wheelchair belong to? Joey? Henry? Someone else? Were they sick or just old, and what does this have to do with anything? Ink dripping away from his eyes, Henri would rise, wondering what happened. However, with absolutely no way of getting any answers, he forgoes trying to find out Joey's secret or even why he's here in the first place. Passing another message that says he will set us free, along with a cheeky drawing of Henry's creation Bendy, he would only now begin to wonder,
how did this place get so big?
But soon, finding a recording from a Sammy Lawrence, we hear him worshipping the ink demon like a god. He speaks of blessings in the shadows, songs of devotion, songs of horror, and a final embrace that will come through sacrifice. His voice carries the tone of a fanatical preacher asking for an amen, as though the studio itself had become his church. And it becomes clear that Joey's rituals had taken root in more than just the pipes. His madness had spread and infected into the minds of his workers. Whoever this Sammy is, I already don't like him, and hopefully we never have to meet him.
Hello? Excuse me, can you help me? Hello?
It's time for bed.
Where the hell did he go?
I don't know if this is ink or soup. It says soup, but I don't know, it could be ink for all we know. I just drink it because I'm a gamer, and if there is something to be consumed, I consume it, unless it's like a rare item, like in an RPG. We save those in case we need it, and we never ever use it. Moving forward in the music department as echoes whisper behind the walls, we find another log from Sammy, and here, he sounds more like a normal, frustrated employee than a zealot, venting about Joey's poor decisions with the ink machine, flooding their stairwells and forcing him to deal with the constant maintenance. He then complains about the ugly pump switch that was installed in his office and the endless interruptions it causes while he's trying to write songs. So Sammy was the dude who wrote the music for the Bendy cartoons. Fun fact, I met my wife back in university. We took a music class together, and she instantly fell in love with me the moment that she saw me. Yeah, I love my wife. But soon I get snapped back to reality, and oh, there goes gravity, as these crawling ink creatures born from the dark puddles attack me. But the weird thing is, Henry doesn't die. He's just born again! And after chopping the ink, we play too much pool in the break room before heading into the recording studio to find a log from somebody new, a lady called Susie Campbell. So she talks about how excited she is to be working for Joey Drew, only 2 months in, and she's loving the job. Suze explains how she's the voice behind Alice Angel, another Joey Drew Studio original character, which she feels deeply connected to, more than any role she's ever played. To her, Alice isn't just another voice acting gig, but something rather personal, almost like Alice is becoming a part of her. Does this count as method acting? But at this point, Henry zoned out, forgot what he was doing, and he got lost. During this brief moment, he found an organ, but when he played it, he would hear a man moaning and groaning, but not in a good way. And then finding our way down into the sewers, I find out who was moaning. It was this ink monster with a hard hat on. But that's when Henry listens to another audio log from a Jack Fain, who was the lyricist working with Sammy, putting words to tunes. He talks about how Sammy drives him mad, but not in a good way. So he likes to come down here to find peace, despite the abhorrent stench. Was that monster we saw Jack Fain? Are these ink creatures previous employees of JD Studios? Well, after dropping a crate on the ink monster, it looks like the hard hat couldn't save him from me. But an achievement pops up, denoting that this was in fact Fac Jane. Moving along through the workshop's halls, we're just about to make some progress, but that is when Sammy decides it's time for us to rest.
Rest your head. It's time for bed. There we go now, nice and tight. We wouldn't want our sheep roaming away now, would we? No, we wouldn't. I must admit, I am honored you came all the way down here to visit me. It almost makes what I'm about to do seem cruel. But the believers must honor their savior. I must have him notice me. Wait, you look familiar to me. That face. Not now, for our Lord is calling to us, my little sheep. The time of sacrifice is at hand. And then I will finally be freed from this prison, this inky, dark abyss I call a body. Shh. Quiet. Listen. I can hear him crawling above. Crawling. Let us begin. The ritual must be completed. Soon he will hear me. He will set us free.
Hear me, Bendy. Arise from the darkness. Arise and claim my offering. Free me, I beg you. I summon you, ink demon. Show your face and take this tender sheep. No, my lord, stay back. I am your prophet. I am
It seems Sammy was hoping that sacrificing me would have freed him. This tells me that most, if not all, the Ink Ones down here are trapped in their bodies, and they're led to believe that Bendy, the Ink Demon, is the one who can release them. However, just like in Poppy Playtime, apparently Henry is somewhat recognized. Regardless, Sammy's plan didn't go as planned, and we need to escape. But I was curious to see what death would look like if I let Bendy grab me. Oh, I guess nothing. After surviving being chased by Bendy, we're met with an old friend.
Hello? Someone there? I know you're in here. Come out and show yourself. Boris?
Boris took Henry to his safe house, and it is here that the lone wolf has just been doing any and everything he could to survive. Speaking of Boris the Lone Wolf, I think it's worth mentioning that I gave the game a shot. Originally called Boris and the Dark Survival, it's a stealth-based survival game where you play as Boris scavenging for food, supplies, tools, just basically anything while constantly being hunted by the Ink Demon and a bunch of other characters. Like, the whole premise behind the game is just basically Boris literally existing and everyone else seemingly having a problem with that. But the whole experience is about isolation and resource management, sneaking through the studio and trying not to get caught. I think I played it for like 8 hours, but ultimately I just wasn't having that much fun with it, so I stopped. But I wanted you guys to know that I tried it. Also, you're not gonna believe the quinky-dinky that this is, but as of the moment of me writing this script, the final installment of the Bendy trilogy was just announced. Bendy and the Ink Factory. This is the last installment in the main series to wrap up the whole burrito. Best believe I will be covering that game when it comes out, and just by looking at some of the photos, it's going to be an absolute banger for the community. I can't wait for it to come out, but I also don't think I'm ever gonna get out of this safe house to go play it because Boris is holding the key to unlock the door to leave. Yeah, he wants me to cook him some food first, and he's holding us hostage until I do so. But to be honest, while I was scrounging around trying to find where Boris hid all of the canned soups, I realized how horrible it must have been for him to be stuck down here. I mean, isolated in this crap hole, flooded with ink, power barely hanging on by a thread. Loneliness is a silent killer, even for a wolf, and it makes me think that he just wanted me to stick around a bit longer, to have somebody around him who wasn't trying to kill him. So after some knick-knack, paddywhacks, I give Goofy a bone and we leave, entering the darkness which terrifies Boris, petrifying him. But soon we make our way into the Heavenly Toy Factory. Here we find a recording from a Sean Flynn, aka Jacksepticeye, who is ranting about how Joey is basically a dick for yelling at him.
Playing off the handle at me. And if he really wants to be so helpful, he could be telling me what I'm to be doing with this warehouse I got full of that angel whatchamacallit.
Opening the door forward, we meet Alice Angel, introduced with cheerful posters and this banner declaring that she's quite a gal. But the cheery presentation feels hollow. The ink-stained walls and broken props hint at something far darker beneath the smile. There's always a little bit of devil behind angel eyes.
I see you there. A new fly in my endless web. Come along now. Let's see if you're worthy to walk with angels.
Two paths converge. Does Henry walk the path of the demon or the path of the angel? Well, I never was one to trust an angel, so off with the demons it is. Finding an elevator, Boris and Henry would get on it, but then Alice's voice would slither through the speakers, telling them to come see her on level 9. But when we get there, we would see something absolutely horrific. We step into a chamber that feels more like a morgue for ink-soaked souls than part of a cartoon studio. All around us, Boris the wolves hang lifeless in restraints, row after row of twisted iterations ripped open, dissected and discarded like failed experiments. Each one is almost the same, yet they all feel slightly different. But it does not change the fact that they were all probably murdered mercilessly, tortured, scared, and left to rot. It's no wonder why Boris locks his safe house from the inside. And standing there, in the middle of it all, is Boris himself, the living one, staring at what can only be described as his own death masks. It's a horrifying moment of self-confrontation, seeing your identity multiplied, mutilated, and reduced to piles of corpses. I cannot imagine what it would be like if I saw multiple versions of myself like this. That's mind-shattering in itself. I bet Boris is wondering if he's the real one, or if he's next. That's when Alice Angel's voice sweetly slices through the silence, taunting as if she feeds on his pain. She boasts that it took so many of them to make her beautiful, proudly pointing to the rows of butchered Boris clones as the price of her perfection. To her, they were nothing but materials, sacrifices in the service of her own visage. She admits that anything less than perfect was tossed aside, and she speaks with the tone of someone who believes she deserves to cannibalize others for her own sense of worth. Her beauty is unnatural. It's stitched together from torment and death. She is a grotesque parody of vanity taken to the extreme. And then, as we find Susie Campbell's log, everything becomes more obvious. Susie recalls having lunch with Joey Drew himself, charmed by his attention and flattered when he calls her Alice. She admits she liked it, almost giddy that her boss treated her as if she and the character were one and the same. That single act of recognition planted the seed of addiction. Because Susie no longer just played Alice Angel, she began to believe she was Alice Angel. She wanted to be her. Every word she recorded, every time she stepped into the booth, she fed into the character, and the character fed back into her. But what makes this even more chilling is how this obsession spiraled, because it would get to the point where Suze would not be satisfied with being just the voice of Alice. She would devolve into wanting to be worshipped as her. She wanted to be beautiful, adored, eternal, no matter how much ink or how many bodies it cost. Looking at her victims, at the rows of dead Boris iterations, I can tell she stopped being Susie Campbell long ago. She is now the demon Alice Angel. Consumption through cruelty, through sacrifice. And yet, I still can't help but wonder what makes this ink so special. What about it gives it these corrupting properties, and how does it enable these supernatural things to occur? Is it because it's ink that's produced specifically from the ink machine? And why was Joey Drew so manipulative? What was he trying to achieve? Heading into the next room, Alice is waiting for us to come in and spectate as she tortures another creature. You can hear the duality in her voice and even note the changes in her speech mannerisms.
Take this little freak, for instance. He crawled in here, trailing his tainted ink to my door. It could have touched me. It could have pulled me back. Do you know what it's like, living in the dark puddles? It's a buzzing, screaming well of voices. Bits of your mind swimming like fish in a bowl.
So she's fearful of being sucked back into the ink, where I guess multitudes of consciousnesses and souls conglomerate horrifically, painfully melding into one another. However, Alice would then go on to make a deal with Henry, where if he just did a few errands for her, she would, just like Poppy, open the path towards our exit. And I started having even more questions about the ink machine, and the beings born of ink. You see, according to Alice herself, the ink machine doesn't create life perfectly. When it brings these cartoon characters or people into the ink world, the results depend on the stability of the ritual, the quality of the design, and sometimes whether or not a soul is involved, and more on that in a bit. But this is why you see some of the ink beings come out fully formed and recognizable, like Boris, Alice, or Sammy, while others come crawling out as mindless, deformed blobs or slugs. The complete characters come out complete because they're tied to specific cartoon designs, which give the ink something to shape, a shell, if you will. In some cases, they're bound to human souls, for example, Alice Angel being tied to Susie Campbell. It's the human element that stabilizes them, giving them voice, will, and identity. The machine constantly churns out both successes and failures, and the successes are those with identity and form, but those are rare. And the failures are the countless ink monsters littering the studio. By now, one could easily grasp the themes of Bendy, identity and corruption. The ink is like a mirror of obsession, reflecting one's essence. But that is still not the whole picture. Because what is the ink machine? Who made it? And why? Well, let's continue the journey first before talking about that. While we're doing her errands, Alice tells us that the ink demon rules this domain. Everyone and everything knows to avoid it, but also that if we're out in the open for too long, it will sense us and come to collect. So every now and then, we need to hide. The same way you should be using a VPN to hide your information from data hunters. Which brings me to today's sponsor, NordVPN. It's a joke, I'm just kidding. It's not actual. Moving forward, we come across more ink messages scrawled on the walls, and one of them really stands out. You know, it just hit me. The ink almost looks like blood. If it were red instead of black, the whole place would feel more like a crime scene. Anyways, these writings give us a glimpse into how the employees actually felt about working under Joey Drew. One worker flat out gives the studio a 1-star rating, writing, "I don't want to work here anymore." It makes me think about how many hopeful young artists walk through the doors dreaming of creating iconic cartoons, only to be crushed by brutal working conditions. Whether it's the leaking ink or the endless working hours, it seemed Joey was piping everyone up. Classic corporate story. Corpos are all the same. After running errands for Alice, some of them to keep up her beauty, others just to spite the ink demon, like smashing his cutouts.
Now that was fun. Oh, but I forgot to mention, he hates it when I do that. I would hide if I were you.
We return to her, but this time she's frantic, begging us to kill the ink creatures clawing their way towards her, trying to drag her soul back to hell. From this moment, it's obvious that Alice and Bendy are anything but allies. Well, I guess when you're the king of your own domain, you don't have friends, but after Henry defeats the ink creatures, Alice would send Henry even further down below. She says there's an old friend waiting for him, before offering a Tommy gun, but it melts away before he can grab it.
This is the worst!
Exiting the elevator and stepping onto level 14, Alice directs our attention to the Projectionist. She warns us to stay out of his sight, but I never liked running and hiding, because if something can bleed, it can die, and I'd rather clear a path than sneak around. So, after 72 swings, in a fight that drags on longer than I'd like, a Tommy gun would have sped this up, I finally bring him down. And when he falls, the Steam achievement reveals his true identity, Norman Polk. I don't have footage of the log itself since I forgot to record it, but Norman was the studio's head projectionist. Get it? Before being captured by Sammy and warped into this monstrosity. A body fused with a projector, wandering the halls as half machine, half ink creature. Completing everything Alice asked of Henry, she says that he can return to the surface and go back home, but...
Are you ready to ascend, my little errand boy? The heavens are waiting.
Oh shoot, is she crying? Does she need water? Oh fuck.
Do you really think I let you steal from me? Really think I just let you go? No, Henry. I know who you are, and I know why you're here. And you will not stop what needs to be done. Now come down and bring me back my forest! It's the most perfect forest I've ever seen, and I want it! I need it. I need it inside, so I can be beautiful again! Don't you understand? Don't you get it? Give him to me! Yes! I'll take him! You're dead!
Who saw that twist coming? But also, she said she knows Henry and why he's come. How does Alice know Joey's secret, and how does she know why Henry was invited, but we still don't know? Regardless, with Boris yeeted, we can't just leave. We have to save our wolf. After finding a secret passage that leads us into a cavern, how is this all even down here, by the way? We make a cog using one of Gent's machines. In fact, we have yet to talk about this yet. The Gent Corporation. Gent lurks in the background of Joey Drew Studios' story, but its fingerprints are everywhere. This corporation sponsored Joey Drew and his dreams, eventually growing along and in to Joey Drew Studios. They're the industrial powerhouse responsible for the piping, machinery, and infrastructure that let the ink machine spread through every wall and every hallway in the workshop. And their name shows up on everything, from elevators to lockers, even to the pipe we've been using as a weapon. On the surface, they were just a supplier, a company that provided Joey with the means to power his miracle studio. But the deeper we go, the more it feels like Gent wasn't just a company behind the scenes building equipment and foundations. I get the sense that on top of feeding into Joey's obsessions, they're hiding something. But more on that later. Because right meow, Alice is whispering in my ear once again, reminding me that Boris might be in bigger trouble than we realize. But when we open this door, we find a chamber filled with skeletal ink beings, their hollow eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. They stand hunched and twisted, their tar bodies stretched thin and dripping like half-finished people. Some clutch their heads, others crouch in corners, and all of them radiate a sense of torment that is impossible to ignore. If you listen closely, you can even hear them whisper, desperate voices longing to go home, begging for freedom that they're never going to have. Sprawled across the walls are words written, "He will set us free. It's time to believe." Graffiti that feels less like hope and more like the broken prayers of creatures who know that they've been abandoned. These victims, these ensnared beings, these lost ones. It sucks, but there's nothing that we can do for them. And honestly, their depression is killing my vibe. So I grab a flashlight and climb through a vent, and it is here that I am reminded why I hate vents. It is still stalking us, a constant reminder that it hasn't gone away. But pressing forward, we follow Susie's message and eventually stumble into the office of Betrum Piedmont. His voice Piedmont? His voice plays on a recording, seething with bitterness towards Joey Drew for belittling him in front of investors, reducing his life's work to a sideshow. Betrum rants about how he'll build something far greater than Joey could ever dream of. A monument that will belong to him and him alone. The walls around us are plastered with sketches of rides and attractions, a madman's vision of an amusement park that was never about joy, but about legacy and ego. Even here, his presence lingers. It's astonishing that Joey's influence didn't need ink to twist people into monsters, because he was able to do that by himself. What kind of man was Joey Drew for him to manipulate or incite hate within others? Moving on, Henry would find himself stepping into what was once meant to be the grand centerpiece of Joey's empire, the amusement park, designed by Betrum Piedmont. Well, I'm pretty sure that this was just a replica or maybe like a test run for what Joey imagined the full park would be. I mean, this is in the studio, and I don't think the full park was ever created. But the lights blaze to life, glowing with a sickly yellow hue, and the sound of carnival music erupts from hidden speakers, echoing throughout the hollow halls. What a nightmare. The sign overhead doesn't read Bendyland, as Betrum once dreamed, but Bendy Hell. Man, Joey Drew Studios. It almost reminds me of Disney. Walt Disney and his brother started out in animation, eventually branching out with merch and toys, and then into theme parks. I wonder if Walt Disney was sort of messed up like Joey Drew was. Moving on, we need to find a way into the haunted house, and we need to do it fast, because every second we waste playing around is time Boris is suffering.
Tell me, are you having fun? I'm sure Boris doesn't mind waiting for his rescue party.
This isn't a game. Also, I have a question for any Bendy experts here. Who is Wally Franks? Because every audio log that I find of him, he always has this sign-off catchphrase where he goes, "I'm out of here," which I think is interesting. But I haven't talked about him because I just wasn't sure how exactly he fits into this narrative. But if you know more about him or his significance, if there is one, please inform me. As we continue to find our way to open up the doors to the haunted mansion, we would come across what remains of Betrum, Piedmont.
The biggest park ever built. A centerfold of attractions. Each one more grand than the one before it. It makes my eyes come to tears at the thought. But then, oh, Mr. Drew, for all your talk of dreams, you are the true architect behind so many nightmares. I built this park. It was to be a masterpiece, my masterpiece. And now you think you can just throw me out? Trample me to the dust and forget me? No! This is my park, my glory. You may think I'm gone, but I'm still here.
Oh shit! That's him? Is that him? That's his head. He's still blinking. He's still alive. How the duck did he do that? Well, Henry needs to decapitate, maybe not decapitate, but destroy Betrum. And so we're on it like a pony, cutting off his arms until all that's left is him looking like a fish. But we're not in the clear yet, because going downstairs, Henry would have another close encounter with the Projectionist, which doesn't entirely make sense considering I already killed him. But, I guess it does make sense since anything born of ink would just return to it and then come back, or could come back, just like how Boris keeps coming back. Or like how Alice said she was born again. Or like how Henry dies and keeps coming back. Guys, I'm slow. Henry isn't human, is he? I guess we'll find out later. But while we're down here, Henry finds another recording where Joey Drew is reciting his lines for the public, but shows his true colors. At first, he speaks like a visionary, preaching about inner strength, motivation, and believing in yourself, until he cuts himself off, irritated, barking orders about how the writers should shove more dreaming into every message, because that's what slop people eat up. It's clear Joey never believed in the words that he sold. He only cared about manipulating others with cheap inspirations. His so-called dreams were nothing more than marketing slogan to keep investors, employees, and consumers under his thumb. However, just as we're about to leave this forsaken place, Projector Head would find and start chasing us, forcing me to hide, which never really made any sense. It's just funny to think these demons watch us get into these hiding spots and then just stop chasing us like, oh, where did he go? After opening the doors to the haunted house, we get on the ride and Alice welcomes us in.
Come in and pretend it's all just a bad dream. It's a funny thing, how so much can fall apart so fast. We never really had control at the studio. Either you were in someone's pocket, or you were putting someone into yours. I just wanted what was promised to me. I just wanted to be beautiful. Surely you can understand that. Henry, why are you here? We're all dying to find out. Do you just enjoy the terror of the drop into hell? Because if that's the case, hang on tight. I've got a surprise.
I was actually expecting a drop or something there, but instead we rode into a room with no windows and no doors. However, as we are about to enter the next section, two giant hands reach out and stop the car. Boris emerges from the darkness, but this isn't the Boris we know anymore. He tosses the entire car, and Alice maniacally laughs about how she took what she needed from him, leaving behind only the brute Boris. It hurt Henry, having to put down his old wolf friend, but he imagined that Boris himself was in even more pain, tortured, torn open, and then forced to continue living on in anguish. Henry had to put him out of his misery.
Why can't you ever just die?
And so it would appear that Alice has someone else in this ink world who looks just like her, just nicer. I wonder if Sue's had her soul split in half or something. And Boris was there too, but he looked different. His demeanor was different. Upon Henry's reawakening, the girl would ask Henry who he is and why he's here, to which he would tell her that he was invited, but not sure as to why. But the thing is now, he can't leave. The girl would state how that is still more than what they know. She explains that one moment they were just thoughts, and then they just were. However, she and Boris don't know what Henry is. What, she says. Not who he is, what.
We don't even know what you are.
My name is Henry. I used to work here.
I honestly don't know my name. So, they call me Alice. But I'm no angel. You go back and rest. We'll talk again later.
But he's still an unknown variable, which means they need to proceed with caution. And Boris is rather hostile towards Henry, or I guess he's just very protective of Alice. Why?
Henry? Here, you must be hungry. Sorry, it's all we have.
Why is he being like that? For what? What did Henry ever do to him? Alice would then refer to Boris as Tom, stating that he responded to that name. Alice would go on to show us a special piece of glass attached to a device that allowed her to see secret messages. Apparently, all over the studio are hidden messages naked to the invisible eye, and she trusts Henry enough to peer through the looking glass as she believes whoever is leaving these messages knows how to escape. That's when Henry asks Alice where the messages are supposed to lead to, and she admits that for her, they only ever end up in circles. With a heavy voice, she wonders if maybe she isn't meant to leave this place at all, but maybe Henry is. Holding on to that fragile hope, Henry begs her to let him out.
I don't think I'm meant to leave this place, Henry. But maybe you are.
Alice, please let me out of here.
Tom thinks you're dangerous.
And what do you think?
I think you're the hope I've been waiting for.
Alice hesitates, torn between her instincts and her newfound potential faith in him. It didn't matter. To Tom, Henry is too dangerous, a risk that can't be trusted, even as Alice quietly admits she feels Henry might be the hope that she's been looking for. Or what if Tom knows Henry? The next morning, everything takes a turn. Tom had left the safe house only to be spotted by the ink demon. Alice is repairing his mechanical arm, but when they realize that Henry is watching, listening, they fall silent. Tom begins to toy with his axe, staring at Henry with a hard glare, as if to remind him that he is not welcome. The following day, the safe house is no longer safe. Henry wakes up to the rumbling, hearing Alice and Tom arguing. The ink demon has found them, and they need to evacuate. Alice, torn, lays her hand on Tom, pleading that they can't just abandon Henry to the demon. She even tries for one desperate moment to pry off the wooden boards, sealing Henry in, but Tom stops her, a hand on her shoulder, shaking his head. They both know he's right. Alice's face twists in anguish, eyes in bewilderment, her hand covering her mouth as the weight of her decision hits her, and then she whimpers an apology to Henry before running. Tom lingers for just a moment longer, looking at Henry. And this look kind of confuses me because he's not really looking at us with anger or malice, but he's got this blank, unreadable expression, so I don't really know what he's thinking. But he too leaves, and Henry is alone. Alone with the looking glass that Alice let Henry keep, and so, utilizing it, he finds a gent pipe. Smashing the wooden planks down in less time than it took for them to argue about whether or not to save him, Henry breaks out of his prison, barely catching the duo as they leave on their barge. But fortunately for Henry, there's another one. So, hopping on the boat, we make our way through the dark tunnels, except the ink demon is in the water. I mean the ink water, river. After parking our vehicle, we come upon what seems to be a small wooden town, and all around are more messages like the creator lied to us and not monsters. But when we use the looking glass, we see another hidden message. Once people, now fallen into despair. Whether it was Joey or some other entity, real humans were sucked into this ink world and trapped in this eternal purgatory. All the ink creatures we've seen so far are previous people. And then, out of nowhere, our old friend Sammy bursts through, smashing Henry. Pissed off that he gave him everything while Henry just left him to rot. I don't know if he's referring to something that happened in the past in the real world, or here when we first met him in the ink world when the ink demon killed him. Was Henry a good or a bad guy? But after smacking the mask off Sammy's head, he runs off, afraid that we're going to see his face. Or so we thought.
You lied to me. You said I'd be free. Well, I'm going to free you now. Free your head right off your shoulders. Sheep, sheep, sheep. It's time for sleep.
Was close. You're lucky we were in the neighborhood.
Was that him?
I don't think so. The Searchers and the Lost Ones built this place. Sammy must have been keeping them at bay, now that he's gone. Looks like we're in for a fight. Get ready.
By the way, the Searchers that she mentioned are the ink creatures crawling on the floor, and the Lost Ones are the humanoid skeletal ink creatures with the almost Cthulhu-like face. But moving on, during this little battle, I let Tom and Alice deal with them, and I got an achievement for it. Also, I wonder why Alice has a halo over her head and Tom has that bone I gave Boris earlier. But I digress. After the glorious battle, Alice, who didn't really apologize for abandoning us, says we should stick together now. Wow, what a great idea. Except Henry immediately falls through the floor, bringing us to the admin office. But the thing that stands out here is the Gent Corporation logo is plastered all over this place, making me think Gent Co. operated on this floor as well. Unfortunately, the passage forward is flooded with ink and the Gent drain system is missing pipes, which means I have to do more fetching. Not my favorite thing in games. Fetch quests are kinda, advancing forward. Henry would find an audio log from Thomas Connor. I guess we could call him Tom for short. Tom finally peels back the curtain on what the ink machine truly is. Speaking in a progress report to Gent, he explains that what began as a device to mold simple life-sized figures has slipped into something unnatural, less engineering and more like magic. Joey Drew insists they're one and the same, but Tom knows better. He notes how the process of imprinting cartoons onto living ink shells has worked in some cases, producing near successes. But then he says something unsettling. The very first attempt, their very first experiment, was Bendy himself, and Bendy was considered a failure, yet no further attempts were ever made to replicate him, as if something about Bendy went beyond their control. The way Thomas puts it, there's just something otherworldly about him, hinting that the ink demon was never just another experiment, but something far worse that the machine pulled into being. Also, I'm beginning to think that Boris Tom, and this Thomas Connor who worked for Gent are the same being. Except in Boris Lone Wolf, I think the Boris in that game was different from Tom, and I actually think his name was Buddy. I could be wrong, somebody check me please. Oh, and what about the Boris we met earlier, who turned into Brute Boris? Maybe that is a different Boris or a different consciousness as well? But all of these Borises have different demeanors to them. Yet the one thing that they all share is that they don't talk. None of them talk. Why? Well, let's go further into the story and maybe I'll get more answers. Lo and behold, I do. Down in the yellow halls, I found an audio log from Joey Drew. Leaning closer to my computer screen and squinting, I began to have this astonishing theory spinning in my head. Here, Joey is talking directly to Thomas, and his words drip with both arrogance and desperation. He scolds Tom for producing quote-unquote weird abominations when what he wanted were living attractions instead, attractions that could entertain investors. I think we know a guy at Freddy's who can help him get into animatronics if he wants. But Joey recalls seeing a grinning thing wandering around Gent's offices, the failed Bendy prototype. As a result, Joey would demand that it be locked up before the press or investors catch a whiff of it. Tom would present concerns about being unable to produce anything perfect or even viable due to the lack of souls, which is a wild thing to just say out loud. Like, imagine in real life if somebody just went to you and said, hey, I can't produce what you want because I need souls. However, it's not a thing to Joey. He just declares if the problem is lack of souls, he'll simply give Thomas or the Gent Corporation souls because he already owns thousands of them. But here's where things get dark. Hearing this back and forth just now, it feels almost undeniable that Gent was deeply involved in more than just supplying equipment or sponsoring Joey Drew Studios. I mean, they had to be running experiments, playing with forces that walked the line between science and the occult. It's very possible Gent and Tom Connor were the ones who created, or helped to create at least, the ink machine itself. We could even take it a step further and say that they were the ones who birthed Bendy the Ink Demon. Of course, I can't confirm anything outright just yet, it still remains a theory at this point of my playthrough and scripts, but the pieces are starting to fit together in a way that makes Joey Drew Studios look less like the source of this nightmare, and more like a front for Gent's darker dealings. Finding another audio log from Joey, he addresses his admin offices. In it, he angrily denies the rumors that the studio is facing financial troubles, calling it slander and demanding that employees just trust his leadership without question. The very fact that he felt the need to say this out loud makes it clear that JD Studios really was struggling behind the scenes. And if we think back to that earlier audio log from Susie Campbell where she had lunch with Joey and admitted she half expected to be the one to pay the bill, this all kind of lines up. The cracks in Joey's empire were showing, and this was him trying to cover up how fragile his dream really was. Speaking of Susie, when we step into JD's office, we find another one of his logs, and this time he's talking directly to her. He tells her that he believes his characters are alive, that they're more than just drawings, and he dreams of people being able to shake their hands one day. But then, he shifts into something darker. Joey starts talking about a ritual, asking Susie to help bring Alice to life, and to me, this feels like Joey was literally trying to use the souls of his employees to fuel the ink machine, and to create these living ink characters. And it's pretty par for the course considering he just bragged about owning thousands of souls to Tom. The ink machine needed those souls to stabilize its creations. Without souls, the inked ones would be imperfect. And Joey, driven by his obsession with being, the greatest showman, fed every single one of his employees' souls into the machine, trapping them here in this endless cycle. But, moving forward, we eventually drain the passage and get through to the film vault.
Looks like whatever was here was taken long ago.
How did you get down here?
It pays to carry a rope. You should try it.
Look, I know where we have to go, but it's not going to be pleasant. The Ink Demon has something that we need. I'm going after him.
You want to go to his lair? Are you crazy? That's death.
That's where the trail seems to lead.
Well, it's probably close by. Probably through that door. But it won't be easy to open. I'll need 3 gears, a crowbar, some kind of counterbalance. Huh. Well, that works too. I guess.
Okay. So they had a rope this whole time. I was down there for like 2 hours, and they took forever to come down and help? Or they waited for me to do all of the work? Anyways, the trio runs along, and Henry would even find his old desk, saying the same thing he said at the beginning of the game, as if he didn't remember that he already said that. And then the Ink Demon would appear, skulking the halls, and Alice would tell me not to make a sound. But of course, I wanted to see what would happen, so I tried jumping around and making a bunch of noise, yet nothing happened, sadly. And so, following the sign of death, we enter.
Wow. I've never seen this before. I don't see any way around. Nothing to build a raft with.
We'll have to wade across.
We can't. We're not like you, Henry. If we go in there, well, a drop of water in the ocean is rarely seen again.
And I guess it's all up to me. And I don't even know what I'm doing here. I don't even know why this is all happening to me.
You're here for a reason, Henry. There's always a reason. Even when you can't understand it. It's time. Set us free.
So I wanted to circle back a bit, thinking out loud like Ed Sheeran about some of the stuff that she said. Alice talks about not being able to get into the ink to get across, because if they did, they would just get sucked back in to the ink. But it's what she says about not being like Henry, which kind of confuses me. Henry isn't human, right? At least I don't think he is. He dies and he comes back immediately through the ink. When he bleeds, you can see he bleeds ink and it shows up around the screen, around his vision. And yet, Henry can walk through the ink and touch it just fine. So why is Henry different and how? And is this giant ink machine that's spewing out sludges of ink what Joey Drew wanted Henry to see? Why he brought him here is his secret inside. Crossing through thick pools of ink, Henry approaches the towering structure that houses the ink machine. The atmosphere feels suffocating. Ink drips from walls, pipes hiss and rattle, and the whole chamber trembles as if it's alive, like we're stepping into the beating heart of something unnatural. Chains rattle above, suspending parts of the machine like an altar. At its center glows the unmistakable sign, Gent. That single logo drives home the truth. Joey's dream gone wild for sure, but it was still Gent's handiwork. The sight is overwhelming, oppressive. The machine looms over Henry like a cathedral of industry and ritual combined, a monument to greed, obsession, corruption, and the souls it devoured.
It's simply awe-inspiring what one can accomplish with their own hands. A lump of clay can turn to meaning if you strangle it with enough enthusiasm. Look what we've built. We created life itself, Henry. Not just on a silver screen, but in the hearts of those we entertain with our fancy moving pictures. But when the tickets stopped selling, when the next big thing came along, only the monsters remained. Shadows of the past. But you can save them, Henry. You can peel it all away. You see, there's only one thing Bendy has never known. He was there for his beginning, but he's never seen the end.
The end.
You know, listening to Joey's words just then, I began to realize Joey just didn't want to be forgotten. He didn't want his legacy to just become a small footnote in history. This is why he brought Henry here. This was his secret and what he wanted to show him, but also what he needed Henry to do. To save his creations, his legacy. That's what he wanted from Henry. But then he says that Bendy has never seen the end. Now again, this could just be me. But to my understanding, by getting Bendy to watch the end, it would, well, be the end. The end of this world or reality, whatever this is, this endless cycle. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but Bendy, king of his domain, entity of his world, doesn't want to end. He doesn't want to cease. It reminds me of a game I just played, Who's Lila? But when we put the end reel into the projector, Bendy sees it and it fucks him up on a spiritual level. When we open our eyes again, we're no longer in a studio, but in an apartment. A lonely apartment, filled with Joey's legacies, but weighed down by darkness. On his board, Henry would begin reading some of the papers that were pinned up. Up on the top left was a letter from Wally, who was surprised that Joey even wrote to him. Wally moved to Florida with his wife, and he's doing well. But he does feel badly that the studio ended up closing down. There were some good memories. Below that, we see a post-it with Henry's name and DU1 TAC 9987, but I don't know what that means. Near that, we see that Joey Drew Studios filed for bankruptcy, and he couldn't even pay his electricity bill. Above that, we see he had an appointment with one Dr. Hackerbrush at 10:37, but I don't know its relevance. Top right, we see a sketch for the dream that never came true, Bendyland. Imagine if they made a Bendyland in real life, though. Looking at this smaller note, It's a bit hard to make out, but I think it says Demon in Bendy's domain, and it has a little arrow pointing to it. I guess this is his domain, but it also looks like the dip in Bendy's head. However, to the right of that, we get an interesting letter from somebody named Allison Connor. So, she talks about working at Archgate Films, another studio. But I don't know the connection between Joey Drew Studios and Archgate Films. At this point, I think Archgate did what many big corporations do when smaller businesses go under. They absorbed Joey Drew Studios, but that's just a theory. If so, perhaps they continued making Bendy cartoons, as they would own the rights. But then, she talks about Tom. Thomas Connor, Tom Boris, Alice. This makes absolute sense. Allison Connor, Thomas Connor, they're married. Tom and Alice from the ink world, their souls are trapped in those ink forms, but it makes total sense as to why they were so close and caring for one another. It still doesn't explain why Tom or any of the Borises don't talk, but at least we know their true identities. But I also wonder, if their souls are trapped in the ink world, how did she write this letter in what I think is the real world? Maybe the way it works is you only need a sliver of a soul, hence why Joey had his employees offer their personal objects on pedestals, because those were pieces of their souls, or it was tied. Let me know if I'm right or wrong. But then Alice continues on about how somebody stole one of Tom's inventions from the old studio. What is the invention in question? Who stole it? Why is she writing this to Joey? Did Joey steal it? And this also solidifies my theory that Tom had a hand in inventing the ink machine. He's an inventor. But it's also interesting and kind of nice to see that Joey Drew, for all of his issues, still had people writing to him. Was it because of shared trauma or pity? What do you think? At the bottom of the board, we see another note. Ink equals life, but that's crossed out and replaced with death. I think Joey learned a bunch of things too late. Finally, at the bottom right, we see Phil 203. At first glance, it could be an appointment time, but then again, 203 is a pretty odd time to schedule anything. Instead, I think this is a reference to Philippians 2:3 from the New Testament, which says, "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself." The irony here is kind of sharp, because inside Joey Drew Studios, the place was built on Joey's selfish ambition, vanity, and obsession with his own legacy. This verse feels less like guidance and more like a haunting remember of everything he ignored. It's kind of just Joey in his old regret. Before heading into the kitchen, Henry takes a look at the calendar. It's August 1963.
Henry! So soon? I didn't expect you for another hour yet. Now you're just trying to impress me. But I know. You have questions. You always do. The only important question is this. Who are we, Henry? I thought I knew who I was. But the success starved me. Nothing left but lines on a page. In the end, we followed two different roads of our own making. You, a lovely family. Me, a crooked empire. And my road burned. I let our creations become my life. The truth is, you were always so good at pushing, old friend. Pushing me to do the right thing. You should have pushed a little harder. Henry, come visit the old workshop. There's something I need to show you.
All right, Joey. I'm here. Let's see if we can find what you wanted me to see.
Holy smokes. So it's a loop, a cycle, and Joey is keeping Henry trapped in it. But it's not the real Henry, it's just a piece of the real Henry's soul, I think. Is Joey mad at Henry for leaving him and the studio? And was that the real Joey that we just saw? Well, 10 years later, in 1973, Audrey would be happily putting in overtime at Archgate Films, drawing cartoons. We would even see Bendy, Boris, and Alice, so I guess they did acquire the rights to Bendy. However, just like me, she needs glorious coffee to continue her passion.
Time for a little adventure.
But this was not going to be a little adventure. Opening the door and entering the dark halls, I'm reminded of BioShock. I genuinely feel like BioShock greatly influenced this game. At the end of the hall was a portrait of Nathan Arch, owner of Archgate Studios. Trying to open the next door, Audrey discovers that she's been locked in, so she heads back to her office to get the key, but when she turns back, she finds a cutout of Bendy just waiting for her in the hall.
Not the most welcoming hallway I've ever seen.
Geez, how far is this coffee machine? She should have just had a coffee station in her office. She asks if somebody's lurking in the dark, but of course nobody responds, and I mean, who would? Moving over to the bucket on the floor and peering in, it's ink. Oh boy, it's about to go down. Calling up the elevator, Audrey keeps looking over her shoulder, worried that someone is going to pop up on her. But it's all fine. She is absolutely safe.
Wilson? You scared me to death.
I'm sorry, my dear.
I hate it when creepy old dudes call me dear.
You're working late tonight. A pretty girl like you
Ew.
shouldn't be wandering around all by yourself. Mind if I step in?
Of course not.
Thank you, Audrey.
I do mind, bro. Go do something else.
You look like you could use a little company.
I just hate how he says my name. Literally sounds like poison, and no, I don't need company. I need coffee. Oh god, and he's got COVID too.
So, it's been really nice this past week.
Just beautiful. Gorgeous.
Straight up, this dude is disgusting. He makes me real and feel uncomfortable. Like, he actually thinks he's putting the Mac on me.
What was that? Please tell me we're not trapped in here.
Don't you worry, my dear. It's just a little short in the system. Happening a lot these past few days. No need to fret. Let's see what we can find. Come along now. Old Wilson will protect you.
I feel like the only protection I need is from Wilson. But with no other choice, I have to go forward and we enter this showroom. So, Archgate Pictures had a floor dedicated to showcasing Joey's works, Bendy. Wilson would open the door, leading us into a familiar setup with a familiar machine, the ink machine, and before it, just like before, pedestals. Wilson says we need to gather items for it. After doing so, there was only
one thing left to do. Pull that switch. It is done.
Wilson?
Oh, Audrey. The things you've set in motion.
What's happening?
The ink is calling us, my dear. Can't you hear it?
What?
Shh. Don't fret. We're going home.
Stay back.
Listen to me, Audrey. Pay attention to these
What's happened to you?
So, somehow, someway, the ink machine opened up a portal or a doorway, whatever we want to call it, back into the ink realm. But I am curious, in the real world, when somebody comes back into that building or the office, will the entire place just be flooded with ink? Was that even the real world? Because that exhibit for Joey Drew Studios did not look well kept, unless that's like a secret floor or something. But what did Wilson mean by returning home? What did Wilson want from Audrey? Wilson knows our purpose, but why doesn't he just tell us? Moving on, Wilson's voice screeches through the speakers, echoing across halls, and he's addressing everyone, declaring himself as their savior. Wilson boasts that he protected them from the ink demon, claiming he destroyed it 211 days ago. But then his tone shifts, and he announces that Audrey is now among them. With cold authority, he commands every listener to hunt her down and deliver her to him. Down the eerie halls, we find an audio log from Nathan Arch, who journals about how Joey Drew, apparently his old friend, passed away. Joey lived an eventful life, but what happens now to his creations? Pushing further in, we find ourselves back in the remains of Heavenly Toys. A decade, even in the ink realm, has done quite a number on this place. Somehow, it's even more run down than before.
I wouldn't drink too much of that if I were you. It helps patch you up, but the aftertaste, it's not so good. Easy now, I'm not gonna hurt you. Looked like you needed some help.
Don't touch me. What are you? Ugh, what is this horrible place?
Yeah, I remember my first day down here. I know, it's scary. But you're actually pretty lucky. The machine could have turned you into a searcher.
You mean that thing that attacked me?
No, that's a Piper. And he's part of a gang, so be careful.
I don't understand any of this. I can't think. It hurts.
You'll catch on pretty quickly, if you can stay alive. Lesson 1. Searchers don't have legs and they tend to swarm. Look, it's not good to stay in one place for too long around here. Keep moving, and stay close to the shadows. Take my advice. Head to the upper levels. It's safer there.
Can I come with you?
You can't. I'm sorry. I have a wolf. He doesn't care for strangers.
A wolf?
Like I said, you'll catch on. Good luck. I hope we meet again. Oh, and one more thing. Above everything else, stay away from the ink demon.
What's an ink demon?
Oh, you'll know him when you see him. He likes to smile, and he kills anything that moves.
Wait! What's your name?
They call me Alice. I'm not very fond of it.
I'm Audrey.
Well, Audrey, welcome to the studio.
So, could she always pull a Batman and just disappear? Or teleport? Moving forward, Audrey would slide over to a mirror and be taken away by who she saw in the reflection. Her skin glistened like polished ink, eyes glowing in unnatural gold, and black tears streaked down her face. Her arm has transformed into a jagged, claw-like appendage, strangely radiating both power and corruption. Unfortunately, this is all happening way too fast for Audrey, so with no choice but to press W, she pushes forward down the steps and finds what looks like a small altar. Sitting on the desk is a recording, Wilson's voice. He explains how Archgate Films greedily bought up Joey Drew Studios, but doing so without realizing the full weight of what they had taken in. Because on the day the movers were hauling crates from JD Studios into Archgate Pictures, one special crate slipped. It hit the ground and cracked open. But Wilson was there, and what he saw that day opened his eye of Agamotto. Because inside the crate was the ink machine. While everybody else dismissed it as little more than a prop for display, Wilson could feel it hiding something, secrets of the machine that he intended to claim for himself. Speaking of Secrets of the Machine, I did give Bendy Secrets of the Machine a few hours, but I didn't finish it because I got bored. However, in that game we play a girl, Riley Wells, who had a tragic backstory. Her parents died in a car crash. Later she gets hired and then fired by Joey Drew Studios after her artwork grows disturbingly dark. I didn't enjoy having to solve puzzles or just like wander around and throw cans of soup around all the time. But the one blatant thing in that game is, well, let's just say the Gent Corporation knows a thing or two about ink. Heading over to the maintenance atrium, Audrey finds a recording where Nathan talks about how bored he's become with all of his successful businesses, so he wants to try something new. But his son would actually suggest he gets into film. And Nathan does like the idea, immediately thinking about his friend, Joey Drew, saying how he wants to revive the past. In a small office nearby, we find a note from an ex-employee talking about how Joey Drew started trying to cheap out on its employees by paying them with tokens to be used in company vending machines. Yeah, instead of monetary compensation with application outside of the studio for bonuses or overtime, tokens were given out. But Joey's plan backfired in a detrimental way, because somebody would end up learning to make fake tokens to trick the vending machines, costing the studio even more money. It's also just kind of funny to see how Joey would try to cut corners, because even in the studio's buffet, we would see a sign that specifically charged employees 89 cents without giving any change. I mean, who carries specifically 89 cents? I tell you, Joey made that executive decision on purpose for the intent of keeping the change. People gotta eat, so it's not like they're gonna stress over, 11 cents? By the way, 89 cents in 1963 is about $9.41 today in 2025. Joey was so strapped for cash that he would even open up the studio to the public. People were taking tours despite ink flooding all over the place. Finding a letter from one Sally Newt, she talks about how Joey and his accountants were fighting, probably about financials, but she says that Joey has a plan, denoting that Gent is making something special. I believe she's referring to the ink machine, harkening back to how Joey was going to use the ink machine to attract new investors and interest from the public, but also how the Gent Corpos made the ink machine. As Audrey would step further into the madness and into this body of ink, the souls inside of it would reach up and claw at her, aggressively pulling her down into the dark. But this is when I realized Audrey was more than meets the eye. Let's just say she knows a thing or two about ink, at least instinctively. With the power in her left hand, she was able to send those very souls back to where they came from, and she walked off like nothing. Then shortly after, she would creep up behind a searcher and banish it. And I think this is different than killing it, as I believe this releases its soul. Audrey has the power to free these trapped, tormented souls, and I am sure I will use this ability to do what's right. Soon she would find a letter from none other than Thomas Connor, who says that despite the final panicking days of the studio, he and the Gent boys are staying behind locked doors, continuing their research, and Tom himself says he just needs to keep his ink machine safe, as it is the key to so many discoveries. If that's not a confession, I don't know what is. But that is when Audrey would find Bendy, Joey and Henry's first and most iconic creation. And this is a much more welcoming sight to that ink demon. Instead, this Bendy is small, childlike, and timid. Standing in the corner with his toy train clutched in his hands, Audrey is shocked at first, questioning if he's real, or that he's real. But slowly she softens as she sees that he isn't hostile. Bendy doesn't speak, but through his gestures and expressions, it's clear that he is wary of her. It is in this moment that Audrey would reach out, promising him safety and companionship.
Bendy? You're real? Oh, this is amazing. It's okay. I won't hurt you. I promise. It's okay. See?
I wonder why her powers reacted to Bendy like that. Moving forward, the illusion that we were relatively safe is shattered. So the ink demon isn't dead after all. Wilson lied. As Audrey sneaks and scrambles through the shadows, his voice follows her, deep and guttural, declaring with booming bellows that the ink realm is his domain, but also that she too was born of it and belongs to it. Every step through the dark and winding halls feels more like moving through the creature's veins, his presence pressing in from all sides. Audrey claws and crawls her way through vents, stumbling around until she finally slips from his immediate grasp. But even in escape, his intimidating voice lingers, taunting her, promising that she can't hide forever, that sooner or later, he will find her. But for now, Audrey would just keep swimming through the ink world. Soon she would find another recording from Wilson, who recounts his first time stepping into the ink realm. How it was a slum ruled by the grinning demon and how he intended to bring order and peace to this dark chaos. Down the hall we enter another room with a lost one slumped over. Behind it were the words written, "She was the fourth," and a log. Jane Todd journaled how there was Bendy, Alice, and Boris, just the three, until she created a fourth member to join them. Except her coworkers were disgusted by her character concept and design. Jane created the ghost girl, Carly, but despite her associates laughing and crumpling her art, she believed that Joey Drew would accept Carly. And even if he didn't, Jane promised, no matter what, she would bring Carly to life. Well, hopefully that Carly will leave us be. Yeah, that gets old very quick, and she never goes away. Audrey would press on further into the studio and come across another lost one, but this one was stuck, and it could talk.
Oh, hello there. Are you looking for the way out?
He sounds like Winnie the Pooh.
Are you stuck in there?
Oh, well, yes, and I'm afraid that means, well, you're stuck too.
Can't you move?
Not an inch. Perhaps you could get me unstuck?
I'll see what I can do.
After freeing him, Audrey leaps down into the dark to follow him, and the strange figure introduces himself as Porter. When she gives her name, he waves it off with a grin, deciding that he prefers to call her Bobby instead, and in return for her help, he gifts her a new power. The ability to blink through teleport. She can teleport. With a wild laugh and a carefree wave, Porter drifts off into the shadows, leaving only one parting word of advice. Don't die. I mean, it's not like we're trying to die. It's the Ink Demon and Wilson trying to bust up the vibes here. Porting forward, Audrey eventually hears the demon growling in her ear about how the deep abyss remembers her and how she is a child of darkness.
The deep abyss remembers you, Audrey, the child of the darkness. Your journey will end as you are consumed into my dark kingdom. Here, you will find meaning in your pain.
I don't know what the Ink Demon wants with us, but he vows to have his dark kingdom consume us. But Audrey knows, with each step forward, she is going to find a way out of here. Shortly after, she would find a note talking about the grim fate of those trapped in the cycle of ink. It explains how when inked ones die, their souls return to the ink to be reborn, but locked in endless torment. Worse still, some souls don't make it back. They slip completely out of the ink, stuck between worlds, unable to live, unable to die, unable to return. These lost ones become ghosts in the machine, and in a recording from Nathan, he would even talk about how after they moved Joey's stuff into Archgate, he felt like something was haunting the halls of the studio, calling to him. Eventually, Audrey would find the elevator and start making her way up, but that is when something named the Keeper clocks and prevents us from continuing forward. Before we know it, the elevator begins hurtling downward, and then the floor beneath us opens up, causing us to fall through. And when Audrey opens her eyes again, she finds herself in a pit, surrounded by little dark inklings trying to chomp at her. After giving them the business and having some comfort coffee, we make our way forward and somehow find Bendito once again. But not unsurprisingly, he runs off. We give chase, but instead of finding Bendy, we surprisingly find somebody else.
I believe there's something special in all of us. Especially you, Audrey.
Who are you?
Don't you know me? Take a good look.
Aren't you?
Joey Drew? In the flesh. Well, so to speak. Come on up. Let's take a little walk. There's something I want to show you.
The Joey Drew, well, kinda, is here. And, like Henry, he wants to show me something. But I stop and I ask him what this place is, what this realm is, what these people or monsters, creatures, these inked beings are. To which he actually gives us an answer. Finally, an answer.
There you go. Follow me. But mind your step. This old place is full of surprises. I should know. I've worked here a long time.
Mr. Drew?
Joey, please.
Joey, what is this place? This studio? These monsters? Am I dreaming?
It's a psycho, Audrey. An ink-stained nightmare, forever stuck on repeat. With just a pencil and a dream, and with a little help from the Gent Corporation, it came into being. From what I gather, it exists in parallel with the outside world, but completely removed from the march of time. And like a record played over and over again, it's begun to crumble, wear down. This studio is a monument to choosing the wrong road. Now, whether it was built for revenge or regret, I don't know. That's my riddle to solve. The truth is, Audrey, someone out there is messing with what's in here. Bad things have begun to emerge from the puddles. Wicked creatures that never came from my pen. The worst ones call themselves keepers. Dangerous, deadly folks. They've taken over the old Gent workshop just beyond the sewers, trying to bring what they call order to this world, freezing the cycle in place, changing the script. Whatever answers you're looking for, you'll find them there. Look, above all, never forget. You're here for a reason, Audrey. There's always a reason, even when you can't understand it.
You made this world. Why can't you fix it?
Because I'm not the man. I'm just the memory.
Okay, so we're gonna run it back. A couple things to point out here. The Ink Realm is basically a cycle, an endless loop that just keeps playing over and over again. How many times has it already set? 10? 69? 200? Who even knows how many cycles at this point? And Joey, well, the Ink version of him, straight up just says, the Gent Corporation created this world. It's a whole dimension sitting right alongside reality, untouched by time. But it is also built out of Joey's obsessions and dark emotions. But it also makes me wonder, is it just his darkness, or could other people's consciousnesses be influencing or fueling this place too? And then Joey mentions how Wilson is messing up the Ink world from the outside. And because of that interference, creatures that Joey Drew Studios never designed are now bleeding into existence. The biggest example? The Keepers. Wilson created them after hijacking Gent's workshop, and now he's basically trying to rule the entire Ink world. The key detail here is that he is freezing the cycle in order to maintain his grip on power, which means our job is to undo that, to keep the natural order of this place alive even if it's a twisted cycle. Pushing the door open, we would see Bendy again, but as expected, he runs off again. We try to follow him, but end up stuck in a giant sewer. Finding a note by one Muncie Dunn, we learn that the Gent Corporation built this tunnel to connect Joey Drew Studios to their new Gent building. And after slogging our way through the sewers, we climb up, out, and once again find ourselves in the glorious company of...
What in the world? How big is this place? Oh, it's you. Where did you come from? Look, I'm sorry about earlier. I didn't mean to hurt you. And I really don't think you want to hurt me either, right? Good. Let's be friends then, okay? What do you say? You and me? Awesome. Maybe you can help me. I'm looking for the old Gent building. What's wrong? Is it a bad place? It's okay. I won't let anything happen to you. We'll go one step at a time. Just you and me. Let's see what we can find.
Big Bioshock vibes here, by the way, looking outside the window. But I wonder why Bendy is scared of the Gent building. Pressing on with our cute little dude, we walk onto the streets, and looking up, you'll find that
the moon haunts you.
Moving along, when we try to enter the Gent building, we are denied access because we need an ID. Thus starts our search for said ID. Along the way, we find a note in the trash talking about how Gent makes things that don't follow the rules of any physics, but also how they've come a long way from their simple, humble beginnings as a brick-laying company. Which reminds me of that poster we saw back in Joey Drew's apartment. However, this note also tells us where we can find an ID, over at the Downside Hotel. Making our way over and passing a fridge that says Beef is People, Soylent Green reference I think, we end up making it to the hotel and finding the ID we need to get into Gent, but Joey finds us too.
Well, geez, you haven't gotten far.
Don't do that! Wait. How did you get in here?
Oh, I have my ways. So tell me, how goes the journey?
Slow, but I'll get through.
Ah, I see you have your father's never-quit go-getter spirit.
Oh, now you knew my father. Well, newsflash, I didn't even know my father. Or my mother. Or anyone else in my family.
I see then. You've chosen to forget the past. I can understand that.
What are you talking about?
Look, I don't think you're ready for this, but hang on to your lunch money. There's something I want to show you.
Wait, what are you doing?
All right, Joey, I'm here. Let's see if we can find what you wanted me to see.
Finding ourselves hearing the voice of Henry Stein and back in the legendary workshop, Joey calls us over once again to tell us that there's something that he wants to show us. Popping a squat in Henry's chair, Joey throws the projector on for us and tells us,
Where are we?
Very old place. Full of memories. But never mind all that. There's a little story you need to hear. You ready? Here we go. Once upon a time, Audrey, there was a bitter old man who had lost just about everything.
Joey.
Right. The real Joey Drew. He blamed everyone but himself for his mistakes, but mostly he blamed his old business partner for abandoning their work years and years ago. A man by the name of Henry Stein, great artist and a good friend. In his anger, Joey used an evil machine to create another world. A world made of paper and ink, where he'd torment his own version of Henry forevermore. But one day, a miracle happened. An angel came into Joey's life, a young woman by the name of Allison Pendle. She didn't visit often, but when she did, she saw something good in Joey no one else could, including himself. Through their friendship, he began to see the world with better eyes. So one day, in Joey's cartoon cycle of hatred, he gave Henry an angel of his own to guide him when things were most dark, to always provide hope. It was then Joey decided to make something new, something he had always wanted but he could never have, a family. But not a cartoon one, something real. And after many, many tries, he created something that made him happier than he ever could have imagined. A wonderful, loving daughter. Bright, kind, almost human. He created you, Audrey.
What? Are you crazy?
Listen, I know it's a lot to believe.
Who do you think you are? I wasn't born from some machine. Flesh and blood. I'm not some kind of ink monster.
Just because we're born of darkness doesn't mean we belong to it. We're always free to choose, to believe what we want to believe.
Take me back. Right now. I'm not listening to any more of your lies.
Remember who you are, Audrey.
Leave me alone! It's not true. It can't be.
Alright, so at least we have that answer sorted out. Joey was mad at Henry for leaving the company. Perhaps it was even because Henry was the magic behind the characters, and without him, the company didn't have anything worthy of recognition, so it failed, and Joey would blame Henry for that. Just the thought, not official. And yeah, we were right. Joey pulled a black mirror on a version of Henry, keeping him trapped in the ink world to torment him for revenge. Most men find their demons in the bottom of a bottle, but Joey found his in a supernatural machine. But what I didn't expect was Allison Pendle. I'm honestly confused here though. Joey says that he gave Henry an Allison of his own to guide him. I'm pretty sure he's referring to Alice, the one with Tom, but if Alice from the Ink realm was Allison Connor, wife of Thomas Connor, then who was Allison Pendle? And Allie Pendle also has a halo over her head in the projector images. Unless Allison Pendle inspired Joey before she married Thomas and became Allison Connor. I hope I haven't lost you yet. I'm kind of just thinking out loud here. But what about the nature of their relationship, Allison and Joey's? Just based off the projector story, I think they were just friends. I'm sure Allison had that kind of energy that simply made people want to be better, like an angel. And then, the big secret that Joey wanted to share with Audrey is that we, are Joey's daughter, born of the ink machine, but I think somehow able to live in the real world as well. I guess Joey figured it out, how to bring something from the ink world into the real world. Am I understanding this correctly? Let me know. And something that Joey says here really resonates with me. I really like what he says here. He says, even if you're born from darkness, you don't need to belong to it. I've said something similar in a few of my videos before, that even if you are born into a cruddy family or you're born into a crap situation, you don't have to stay with it or die in it. You can choose to be more than them, to be more than your situation. But all in all, I guess this is why Audrey has her powers, to control the ink and to live in both worlds, because Joey birthed her from the ink into reality. Again, I could be wrong, but this is my understanding so far, and I also think the specifics of the ink properties and the machine are kept vague on purpose. Moving on, we are about to enter the Gent building when... So the ink demon is the same being as Kid Bendy, and Gent found a way to force the ink demon to turn into the more timid and docile Bendy, which would explain why Bendy was even afraid to come to the Gent building earlier, because Wilson and the Keepers have the technology that strips Bendy of his powers. Once inside the Gent building, however, the Keepers instantly pegged me as an anomaly.
Designation required. What are you? What is your purpose?
My name is Audrey. I'm not here to cause you any trouble. Look, I just want to go home. Please, can you help me? I'm sure we can reach an agreement. Let's just talk. Who are you? Where did you come from? Who made you? Can you take me to him? He wanted me to find him. Please let me see him.
You really gotta wonder how strong Audrey is for the Keepers, these robots, or whatever they are, to go against Wilson's wishes and try to kill me instead of letting me see him. Like, she must be insanely powerful, or have the potential for it. And also when the Keepers say the machine needs to keep going, I'm sure they're referring to keeping the cycle going in its stasis. How strong are these Keepers anyway? Because I smacked the crap out of this one here, running circles around him, and he just wouldn't die. Definitely stronger than a Projectionist. Carrying along, Audrey's path forward would be locked, but a lost one named Heidi says that she can open it for us. But we have to play hide and seek with her first. And let's just say, as a former child, I know a thing or two about hide and seek. While seeking, we find a note from Joey talking about his love for his daughter, Audrey. And, it's here that I begin to wonder what it's like having a daughter. To be a father and to have a baby girl. And I think it's kind of weird because I have little to no interest in having a boy at this point in time. But I think it's because part of me knows I'm going to fuck that kid up, if I have a son. But with a daughter, I don't know, I feel like she would just be easier to love. I don't know, am I messed up for saying this? I honestly never gave it much thought. It's only as I'm reading this script that I've even gave this any real thought. But yeah, a son. I don't know. I'm not against it, but I guess I am afraid, mostly, if anything. And I kind of wonder what that says about me. Finding Heidi hiding, finding Heidi hiding, say that 10 times fast. Finding Heidi hiding, she then opens the door forward, but before doing so, she grants us the power to fast travel, to travel fast, which I don't use, and we move along and we find a cell for a subject 414. The Keepers have been keeping someone locked in here. Henry. Audrey tries to initiate conversation with him, but like Loki, he says we must be truly desperate to come to him for help.
Excuse me. Sir? Can you help me?
You must be really lost to be asking me for help.
I'm just looking for answers. About the Keepers, Wilson, the cycle. Anything could help.
What's your name?
Audrey. What's yours?
Honestly, I've almost forgotten. My name is Henry.
Have you been a prisoner long?
When the Keepers think you're a threat to their plans, they lock you away. Forever. Still, it's giving you time to think. Things like, if you haven't eaten in years, you might not be human.
Why would you be a threat to them?
I'm what they call a cycle breaker. Once upon a time, I knew how to start the cycle over. And when that happens, everything begins again. Completely new. Obviously, Wilson and the Keepers don't want that to happen.
How did you do it?
Reset the cycle? Turns out the Ink Demon himself is the key. This world is his, but even he must obey its rules. For now, at least. If you can get him to look at something very specific, it will reset everything.
What is it?
It's just a reel of film, labeled with the words, "The End." I can see it in my mind every day. They keep it upstairs in the pit.
I'll see if I can break in and steal it. Maybe, if I reset the cycle, we could make things better for everyone here.
And what about you?
I just want to go home.
So did I. Good luck, Audrey. If you need me again, you know where to find me.
Okay, so now we've got a new objective. Simple enough, we've done this once, we can do it 3 times. Pressing on, we track down Piedmont's head. Piedmont's head? Yeah, somehow he's still alive in there. And we even stumble across Henry's old tools from a decade ago. Now they are on display and treated like forbidden contraband. But advancing forward, we actually can't get too far, because the Keepers detect us. One rises out of the ground, ambushes us, and then knocks us out cold. When we wake up, we're on a train, and sitting across from us is Wilson, more corrupted and more twisted looking than ever. After a bit of blah blah blah, he finally lays out his true motives. Just like how Joey brought Audrey into the real world, Wilson has figured out that anything created in the Ink realm can cross over into reality, but the catch is, to pull it off, he needs complete control over Bendy's domain. That's where Audrey comes in. When she asks him straight up what he wants, Wilson says he needs her help to save his father. But he cuts the conversation short, saying that they'll continue inside. As we follow him, the Ink Demon whispers in our ear, warning us that Wilson is lying. Audrey isn't so sure though. She starts to think that maybe Wilson isn't that bad of a guy. Maybe he really does need her help to save his father. Welcoming us into his civilized world, He brags about his signal towers, technology built by the Gent Corporation, which, as we've just seen, stripped the ink demon of his powers. Climbing the stairs, instead of giving us answers like he promised, he introduces us to Betty, his housekeeper, and other things, whatever that means. Audrey would then notice a canvas hanging on the wall. Everything clicks. Wilson never killed the ink demon. Pressed on it, Wilson admits the truth. Because of the demon's endless power, they couldn't destroy him, only seal it away by forcing him into his small, childlike form. But Bendy has found a way to shatter that form and return to what he once was. Is it because of Audrey? Did Audrey placing her hand on Bendy, break the seal or whatever, allowing Bendy to switch forms every now and then? Does anybody know the answer to this? Why is Bendy able to break the seal and keep switching between his forms? Anyway, before Wilson leaves, Audrey asks him why he didn't just truthfully ask for her help in the first place, but he just sighs, asking if she would have even believed him. Valid. We would then proceed to follow Betty to our room. Once in, she gives us the rundown and even divulges information that Wilson created her after the image of his mother. Ah, so Wilson's one of those boys. However, this Betty was considered a failure. But moving along, we would walk over to the bathroom to drink some water, just 3 sips.
Now, just 3 sips of water. 1, 2, 3.
Awake at last. I was almost afraid you missed my party.
What's going on?
Oh, it seems you're just a little overwhelmed. It's all right, honey. I understand. It's not every day one gets to bask in the glory of an angel.
Angel?
Alice Angel, to be exact. That's who I am. Sent from above. Impending perfection.
What do you want?
Right to the chase. I like that. The truth is, honey, you're one of a kind. And to put it bluntly, what I want is your face removed, your skin peeled away like paper, and your insides torn out and tossed onto my table. Custom parts, ready for my delicious harvest. And with your generous sacrifice, I'll be beautiful. But for now, let's have fun. Plenty of time for a bloodbath later. Ooh, how about a game? Let's all play a game of riddles.
Riddles? What a wonderful idea!
No. All right, honey. Here's the deal. Behind you is the door to freedom. But it will only be opened if you solve my little puzzle and return to your special chair. Then, I'll throw this heavy switch. If you get the puzzle right, you walk away. Get it wrong, you fry. Let's begin.
So Alice Angel is back, and she's invited us to her tea party. We're all mad here. After looking up the answer to her riddle, she flips the switch, electrocuting everyone else at the table except Audrey. So, Audrey gets up to leave, but of course, Alice wasn't just going to let us leave. While she tries shooting us with a Tommy gun, we try to figure out a way to sneak around and take her from behind. But when we try to...
How dare you touch me!
beautiful.
Always were. Why does this feel so familiar? Are you all right, Audrey?
Alice, I cannot begin to tell you how good it is to see you. And this must be your wolf.
Audrey, meet Tom. He's my protector. My friend.
You both got here just in time. Now I understand why you don't like being called Alice.
The machine creates many of the same forms. At least on the outside. On the inside, we're all pretty different.
Well, from now on, I'm gonna call you something other than Alice. It just doesn't suit you.
Oh? What do you have in mind?
How about Allison?
It's not bad. Okay, I'll try it out. But only if you can tell me what in heaven's name you're doing in Wilson's retreat.
Wilson, I almost forgot. I have to get back right away.
Are you crazy? Wilson's our enemy.
Do you even know him? Have you ever talked to him?
I've seen what he's done. That's good enough for me.
Look, it sounds like he has a plan to kill the Ink Demon. For good. And I think he can help us all. I just need to go back and hear him out.
Well, if it's true, you'll both need as much help as you can get. The Ink Demon won't go down without a fight. Tom and I will gather some of our friends. Anyone who's left. Good luck, Audrey.
You too, Allison.
Mind if I take this?
So, I guess due to the cyclical nature of this realm, there are just some canon events that always need to occur, like Alice Angel always needs to get stabbed in the back by her counterpart, hence why Alice gets the deja vu. This also doubles down on the fact that the ink machine does, in fact, make a bunch of iterations of the same shell, the same character. But on the inside, everybody's different. So that's nice to officially hear, as that answers the questions that I've had about all the Borises. But still, why does Boris never talk? None of the Borises ever talk. And that's because Joey initially tested the ink machine on fictional characters without human subjects. Boris was the first fictional character created as a perfect real-life model. Because Boris and his clones were created without a human host, they were given only the basic organs necessary to survive, unlike characters fused with human souls like Susie Campbell becoming Alice Angel, who retained speech and also had their bodies made with a vocal apparatus. So that's why Boris can't talk. Pure ink creation without human soul, without a vocal apparatus, just with basic functions. But I also like how Audrey gives her the name Allison, and Alice responds to it like, wow, yeah, I like this new name. I mean, it's not that funny, but it kind of made me chuckle a bit because the names are just already so close, and you would think like, oh, Alice is like short for Allison, but it also ties up the theory neatly that Allison and Alice, this Alice specifically, are the same. But it also makes me realize that Susie was probably Alice Angel, the demon one, the dead one here. She has been this whole time. Making our way over to Wilson's, Betty says that he is waiting for us at the lab. But before we go, she asks us to go get groceries for her. But I'm not an Uber. So I head to the lab and I walk through the colorful tunnel that reminds me of Space Mountain back at Disneyland. When Audrey finds Wilson, he explains that he has a plan to destroy the Ink Demon once and for all, by replacing him with an entity that's harder, better, faster, stronger.
Let me show you my creation. Isn't he beautiful? Simple but elegant. A treasure. Powerful beyond anyone. The Ink Demon will fall, and we can have peace at last.
It could work, but it sounds risky. How will we control him? We don't want to repeat Joey's mistake.
No, we don't. All of the factors must be perfect. The right design, the right science, and the right soul. At last least your purpose is revealed, Audrey. This is why you're here. With your soul inside him, my creation will live forever.
Stay away from me. You're insane.
Come now, Audrey. Part of you knew this was your path. Leave yourself behind and ascend.
I thought you said we needed to save your father. I thought you had a plan to send me home, to make everything right.
I lied. My father is beyond hope. Perhaps you know him. Nathan Arch, owner of Archgate, industrial genius, business tycoon. For years I've lived in his reaching shadow. He always had time for the grand creatives of the world, the doers, as he called them. He knew only the best, the biggest thinkers. How could his lowly son ever hope to compete with that? But now, thanks to you, I can. No need to struggle. My signal prevents you from using those devilish powers of yours. And more importantly, keeps the ink demon from getting in. It's time to die, Audrey, and live again as a god.
No, not this time.
Halo treatment. Wilson had some issues, but both mommy and daddy issues is wild. With Audrey's soul spared, Wilson's soul is now transferred over to that new and supposedly more powerful entity. I'm not gonna like what comes next. But after a long and arduous battle, Audrey banishes Wilson, and I thought that would have been the end of this sailor boy, but no. Now playing as the Ink Demon himself, Audrey has gained control over his body, smashing through doors and forcing Bendy to go see the end. The Ink Demon desperately summons every being in his domain that he can, but they can't do anything until we hit the end of the road. Bendy is relieved that Audrey has nowhere else to go, that she can only wait to die. But then, Allison shows up, guns blazing, and also with Tom. With their help, we're able to keep moving forward. They're overriding security systems, fighting off inked ones. Even Porter and Henry would show up to help. Power of friendship type shit. The Ink Demon would tout that this was his domain and the cycle would still continue. But Audrey retorts that they're just gonna do it better.
My father once told me that just because we're born of darkness doesn't mean we belong to it. We're always free to choose. And here, at the very beginning, there's a choice to make. My father's cartoon world was now mine, to rule, to watch over, and to protect. I can make the cycle more bearable for my friends inside. But as for me, I'm the first of my kind. Born of ink, but living in flesh. Joey's world is escaping into ours. So, what's next? Who can really say?
And so, to my understanding, the cycle repeats again. But this time, Audrey, able to walk both worlds, can make it easier for her friends in the Ink world. Hence what she said to the Ink Demon, that they're just going to do the cycle better. However, she also mentions that what's in there is beginning to bleed into the real world here, as she turns and looks over to dapper Bendy. But also, that ending post-credit scene just proves Gent Co. is up to no good. And I also now know what Allison was referring to in her letter to Joey Drew about how somebody stole Thomas's invention. It was the ink machine. Wilson got his hands on it, and Gent couldn't take it back until Wilson died. But what is Gent going to do next? If you made it this far in the video and haven't clicked off yet, 1, thank you. 2, let me know that you're a real one who made it this far by typing in the comments,
I'm out of here.
I'll be honest, I've never played Poppy Playtime before this video. It came out in 2021, I'd heard about it, seen the memes, even watched it.